God forbid you just stop the car until the track is definitely clear. I mean,
when have you seen a hurricane in Texas? Well, it happened that day.
What's all-star about having every driver? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Good guy, ass. Good guy, can't drive a race car. Sorry.
You're listening to the Foreign Fuel Podcast.
hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Foreign Fuel Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Capilupo, joined by Steve Ray, Wesley Riddle, and Sam Dooley. We're here for a Food City 500 recap after Bristol Motor Speedway. I'm back in the studio after a vacation week in Tennessee. I'll talk about that a little more, Steve, but you know, you did did a hell of a job holding down the fort. You and Sam last week recording an episode. I appreciated it.
Thank you. I'm so grateful that you're back because, like I was telling Sam, we don't do it as naturally as you do. So thank goodness that the four of us are back together. It feels like that the world can start spinning normally again. So I'm excited to hear all about Bristol, man. I saw a couple pictures that you had. It just seems like a place like no other. So I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah, it's a great track, and the trip overall was great. And I was kind of off my phone for most of that trip, and I guess really needed because I feel like I spent a lot of time on my phone, and having a week where I'm not on my phone for probably 6 to 8 hours in the day was really nice. Taking in the views in Nashville, then in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, and then Bristol to wrap the trip up was really cool. And yeah, just a really great trip overall. Wes, you've been to Bristol. We went there back in 2020. I feel like the facility hasn't changed too much since then, but it was nice to be there where there was more than 25,000 people and there wasn't all this social distancing having to be practiced.
Yeah, I didn't know how the crowd attendance was. I didn't really keep up with much of it this weekend, but yeah, it's got to be a relief having the more of the freedom that we didn't have back at the All-Star race, and probably more activity and festivity going on at the racetrack. So, what was your experience like this year?
We get into the track. I got there around, I'd say 10:30, which is a little later than I like to get to the track, but it was only a group of four of us. We weren't going to do this huge thing. We just kind of hung out and then did the fan zone and everything. And the fan zone it was really lively down there. A lot of good activations going on there. A ton of souvenir tents run by vendors and people themselves. You had them across the street from the track. You had them leading up to the fan zone on the side of the track. And just a lot going on. It wasn't too crowded. I think the crowd was a decent crowd. I think if I heard right, it was around 70,000, which I'd say is pretty accurate, which is a good number for a NASCAR race, especially in the spring, the spring race of everything. And the grandstands are great there because everything's so spread out. You have cup holders in front of you. You're not breathing on top of the row in front of you or the row behind you. It's a great layout there, and there's not really a bad seat in the house. I sat in the Quickie Tower over in turn 2, row 54. It was a hike to get up there, but once you're up there, I mean, a fantastic view of the track. You've got the mountains in the view behind the track, which is really nice. And I mean, even my girlfriend, who's not super into NASCAR, had a great time. And she was like, "Why have you been hiding this track from me?" I said, "Well, haven't been hiding it from you." But she had a blast and loved the track itself. So I think that's a commendment to everyone at Bristol Motor Speedway and how they handled stuff. Now, I have one single gripe was when I got into the grandstands at the main concession stands. I went through four concession stands looking for a bottle of water, and they were out. And this is before the race. So I don't think that's acceptable to be out of water. I had to go to a little beer cart to get water. So I don't think fans should have to go to the beer stand to get water.
No, it just is a perfect time to get another beer. Forget the water. You're at the beer cart already. Pull out a cold beer.
I did have a nice frozen margarita in the fan zone because Jose Cuervo is, I guess, a sponsor of NASCAR this year. So they had a whole stand set up where they were sampling off their new, I think it was like pineapple habanero tequila, which was pretty good. Took a shot of that, or, took a sample of that, was good. And then we were already up there, and they had the frozen slushy machines going. So I said, I'll take a frozen margarita while we're at it too. And it did hit the spot. It was a very hot day, about 81 degrees there, which I mean might be a record for the Bristol Spring Race because we've had that place covered in snow before, let alone it be sitting there sweating, applying sunscreen about 5 times throughout the day. So we made it out. The only thing red right now is my polo and my Morgan Wallen hat that I got when I was in Nashville. So overall, a great trip, and I'll talk more about my experience throughout the race when we get into that part. Well, I mean, speaking of the race, Ty Gibbs. I mean, I just seem to have a knack for going to races and seeing drivers get their first career win. Back in 2006, I saw Denny Hamlin get his first win at Pocono. In 2017, I saw Austin Dillon get his first win at the Coke 600. 2022 saw Austin Cindric get his first win in the Daytona 500. And now here we are, Ty Gibbs' first career win at the Food City 500 at Bristol. Sam, I know you are Ty Gibbs's #1 fan. So how did that make you feel?
I didn't hate it. Like, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would when I saw it. I've had some words about him, not necessarily him as a person, because I've mentioned, I think, on this podcast a couple times. Like I had an interaction with him at the Chicago Street Course. I think 2 years ago is when I went, and had like a good conversation with him. He used to race BMX. I used to race BMX, so I just talked to him about that. It was kind of a fun little quick conversation. He signed everyone's stuff, so like as a person, I always liked him. As a driver, I always called him a nepo baby. That's just kind of how it looked up until the beginning of this year. Really, like he didn't look like he deserved to be there. Once again, though, he's what, like early 20s, somewhere in there. Like he's really young, so it takes a little bit of time. And once he got past, we were talking about, he's past his 100th start. Like it needs to turn on now, and it has. And it finally clicked. You run up front enough, and eventually you're gonna find your way into victory lane, and that's what Ty Gibbs did. Um, and you can't argue that he wasn't a top car. Like I know that pit strategy is what got him up there, and you can argue a lot of different things about the car itself. But you can't argue that he didn't deserve that win because he held off the leaders uh, multiple times on old tires. He held off the best car of the day on that green white checkered restart um, when he was on old tires, and the best car of the day was on newer tires. So overall, like it was just a really good, hard fought win, and I mean you can't discredit him for it. Like he earned it through and through.
I was gonna say, towards the end of that race, Ty Gibbs was probably the second best car. He got past Kyle Larson on that long green flag run before Chase Elliott brought out the caution with around 20 to go. And he was putting the pressure on Blaney. He never really got to the bumper of Blaney, but he was on the same straightaway as Blaney, and Blaney was having trouble getting by Brad Keselowski and Daniel Suarez there with about 40, 45 laps to go. And Todd Gibbs was keeping him honest. He made Blaney push probably harder than he wanted to in that moment. So, yeah, I mean, no one really is thinking Ty Gibbs backed into this win because he drove past Larson, who looked like the best car in the first half of the race. And he was catching Ryan Blaney there at the end, who was arguably the fastest car of the race. So just what he's done the last 6 weeks really came to fruition right there at the end of that race, holding off the fastest car who had 4 fresh tires and just not messing up. It's so easy for him he could have slipped up on that green white checker, could have gotten out of the groove trying to overdrive it, and he just raced his line, and it was enough to get the win. And a pretty cool moment seeing him celebrate with obviously his grandfather Joe, his mother Heather, and just a really cool moment for the sport. It's unfortunate it's kind of battered down with this lawsuit going on, and then just kind of the perception of Ty Gibbs as a whole, because I think this is a special moment for the Gibbs family with the passing of Coy and JD in the past, and seeing Ty finally get into victory lane and potentially have success in the sport, I think is important.
Yeah, just like you guys mentioned too, it's not like Ty backed into this win. It's not a fluke win by any means. Outside of Daytona and Atlanta, which are just two wild card races, out of the next 6 races, his worst finish was sixth. So he's been consistently one of the best drivers that we've seen this season. So it was not a fluke by any means. And man, he's clawed himself. I mean, after Atlanta, he was buried deep in the points, well into the 30s in the points, and has made his way up to the top 5 in points. So I think it's time to have a conversation about Ty Gibbs being maybe not, I wouldn't put him quite at championship contender, but man, he's making a solid case for having one of those top half dozen positions when it comes to the chase reset later this season for sure.
Yeah, and like we were talking about in our midseason report card, he was actually one of the strengths of JGR up until this point, and that was even before he got this win. So it was JGR we mentioned was like a great all around team, and this just kind of adds to it. He's the second guy to win from JGR. You'd think in a team with that has Chase Briscoe and Christopher Bell, one of those two guys would also join Denny Hamlin before Ty Gibbs did, and Ty Gibbs just comes up and wins this race. So it was huge by Ty Gibbs, and you kind of saw the signs were pointing towards it was going to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, you mentioned his teammate Chase Briscoe. This was a much needed day for him because he was kind of the reason why we didn't give JGR an A+ in our midseason report card, is because of the struggles that the 19 team has had. Not all of their own doing. Some of it's been on track, some of it's just been mechanical failures, but running top 5 in both stages and finishing 5th and coming out with a 45-point day, and now he's sitting like 1 point below the cut line for the chase. Um, this is definitely a day that the 19 team needed to get themselves back on track for this season. So that was nice to see. Kind of a bummer for Christopher Bell. It seemed like he was going to be a contender for this race also, but then just kind of smacked the wall and broke a toe link and finished 27th. So, um, and then Dom, I'll ask you since he's your guy. Denny, finishing 9th. I mean, got 6th and 3rd in the stages, but really didn't seem like that he had kind of the race winning speed that I think some of us thought that he was going to have to as well.
Yeah, there was definitely times. I mean, the short runs for the 11, he went backwards. He started 11th, dropped to 14th right off the rip, and the car came to life on the very, back end of a run. You'd see him. There was a run. I think it was the end of the the end of the first stage where he was, I think, ninth maybe with 30 to go and drove all the way to third. And he was, I'm telling you, if there wasn't, or that second stage, yeah, second stage, he drove from ninth to third in the last 30 laps. And if there was probably another 15, 20 laps in that stage, Hamlin might have gotten up there and passed Larson and Blaney just with how fast he was on that long run. But yeah, just they made the call at the end to stay out, and it just didn't work out for them. And just got a ninth place finish. Just what you got to do with the 11 team. You're not the fastest that day, and it seemed like a little off. But your off days being a top 10 still with stage points is a lot better than your off days being 25th with no stage points, like basically 3 of the Hendrick cars.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
I was just
Before
gonna
we
say.
switch over to Hendrick.
I was just gonna say along the lines of this. You're right. Your bad days, actually mean something again, which is really nice about the chase. Is that we could be sitting here. Denny Hamlin would be leaving Bristol like, man, I just wasted 3 hours on my Sunday. I could have been sitting out there fishing, right? Like, but instead, because he would be locked in if it was the playoff format. But now that we've got the chase, that ninth place finish at Bristol in the spring and April actually means something going forward into the end of the regular season and into the playoffs. So, just hit the hitting the that topic again, is that it's really nice and refreshing that people can have okay days and they're okay with it.
Yeah, Hendrick. I mean, if you're not Kyle Larson, you're scratching your head because there was no speed from the 24 all weekend. Qualified out 34th and couldn't break the top 30 all day. Was just a moving chicane out there. 5 laps down on pure speed. And the 48, Bowman, happy he's back in the car. But they just never had any speed and got caught up in that wreck when SVG spun out in 3 and 4. And Chase Elliott was out to lunch, it felt like, too. He was, for half that race, I swear, he was in front of Austin Cindric. And I thought Cindric was going to wreck him about 10 times because he was holding him up so bad. And finally, Chase Elliott spun it out with 20 to go. Kind of set up all the strategy there at the end. And then Chase Elliott spun out again by himself, coming to the white flag. And ultimately finishes 22nd. And they made that call to stay out in the middle of, was it stage one or stage two, and him and Josh Berry both stayed out. And Berry was able to hold his own, and Chase Elliott just sank like a rock. So it just showed that Hendrick kind of missed it except for Kyle Larson. But how much of that is Kyle Larson just being so good at Bristol? And is there cause for concern at Hendrick now being 8 races in, and really your only win was kind of a track position kind of based, kind of lucky strategy call win?
Yeah, you could say that Chase's win at Martinsville, I mean, that was definitely Denny's race to lose, and he did ultimately at Martinsville. So, yeah, you could give it an asterisk. Asterisk is how a grown person says it, or call it a Mickey Mouse win. But ultimately, they still won. But yeah, it's just so weird. We've seen this from a couple teams. We talked about it after Darlington, where Logano was just nowhere to be seen at Darlington. The same thing at Bristol. Just I don't know what it is. I mean, this is the top premier team in NASCAR, and then to bring a car that he might as well have just stayed home. Or if they're going to put somebody in the car, put my grandma in the car because she would have ran faster, and she's 82 years old. She would have ran faster than William Byron. It's so bizarre of how these teams will just nail it one week, and then the next week, just nothing. For the amount of time and money and resources and sim work and everything that they put into this and the past setups that they could have gone after. This isn't the first race that they ran the next gen at Bristol, not the first time that they ran Bristol Spring on the pavement. So it's just so bizarre to look at this and be like, you see the finishing order here, and William Byron finishes 5 laps down. You go, oh well, something happened, something broke on the car, got into a wreck, XYZ. No, they were just completely that slow. And yeah, I don't know where you go from here because it's not just a Hendrick thing. We're seeing Trackhouse cars really slow. We're seeing the Spire cars are somewhat there, but they're kind of hanging in like that 10th to 15th to 20th range. So is it maybe less of a Hendrick problem and more just a Chevy problem in general, still trying to get used to this new body? These are the question marks that they'll have to answer.
Yeah, Hocevar did a good job. He was right around the top 5 all day. Ultimately finished 10th after staying out on those old tires at the end. And I feel like Hocevar and Larson have been consistently the two best Chevys every week. And Daniel Suarez, good salvage that day, got 12th. I mean, you look at Daniel Suarez, he's racing for his career almost, and he's doing a hell of a job this year. He's outrunning all the Trackhouse cars almost every week. And realistically, everyone thought, oh, this is going to be a 1 year deal for Suarez, put Kyle Busch in that car next year. But why would you do that if you're Spire? First off, Suarez brings sponsorship, and Suarez is kicking Kyle Busch's ass every week. They're not even running next to each other. Kyle Busch is back here running 25th, and like Denny Hamlin said, it's time to have time to be real here. You can blame RCR all you want, but Kyle Busch can't be running 30th every week. If he's good enough and has his head in the game, he'll at least lift a 30th place car into the top 20 consistently. I mean, it's a weekly Kyle Busch caution every week now. I mean, it's really sad, but the only way Kyle Busch is inspired next year is if he's replacing Michael McDowell. Daniel Suarez, as of right now, should not lose that ride after this year.
100%. Yeah. Michael McDowell has seemingly he has been the weak link for Spire this year. I think a lot of us thought that he was going to help carry that team and he was going to be the elder statesman of that organization, help carry, Hocevar and Suarez. But man, that 71 team has been the weak link. And it's not even that much. They're still sitting 19th in points, only 6 points out of a chase spot. So it's not like that they're terrible, and they're definitely around their other teammates. But yeah, certainly
You know who they're
Hocevar,
beating? You know who Michael
the
McDowell's beating in
Trackhouse
points?
cars.
Yeah, well, he's also beating both RCR cars. He's beating Kyle Busch. He's
Absolutely.
head and shoulders
Yeah.
above Kyle Busch, like by a lot of points. And like, if you look at the points, that's the most concerning thing about the whole Kyle Busch side, is that he's like 7 points in front of Austin Dillon. You should not be. You should not have 7 points over Austin Dillon. I don't care. Like, we dog Austin Dillon and we say that he sucks and he's only in that car because of Granddaddy and everything. But then you turn around and in pretty much the same equipment, I'd argue that Kyle Busch probably gets the better cars, and Kyle Busch is 7 points better on the year than Austin Dillon. That's bad. That is so bad. You should, like Don was saying, you should be able, if you are as good as Kyle Busch is, you should be able to make that car better, and you should be able to make it more than 7 points better through 8 races than Austin Dillon, your teammate, is. Like, I'm not gonna say that Kyle Busch is washed. He's one of the best NASCAR drivers ever. Like, I'm not gonna put it on that. I just think his head is definitely not in the right spot. If you hear like the radio communications that he's putting out there, like talking to his team, his head isn't where it needs to be. His head's not about driving the car. He's trying to fix the whole circus. And I don't know how much of that is RCR behind the scenes. I'm obviously not an RCR insider, but just from the outside, you see the symptoms and you kind of draw in your head the conclusions that there's something going on there, because he's like, I on Actions Detrimental, did he mention him asking if the crew did something overnight or whatever. That was purely a radio communication that he had. And it's like your head's in the wrong spot if you're asking those questions. I don't know if he has reason to ask those questions or not. I don't know how big of a circus that is behind the scenes, but at a certain point, it's just focus on driving the car and let the rest kind of work itself out. But you should be more than 7 points better than your teammate.
It's not like Kyle Busch is washed by any means, like you said. However, it just seems like since the next gen car got introduced, he just has not had a good handle on the next gen car. So hypothetically, if Kyle Busch does go to Spire, do you think that he runs better than what he is at RCR right now? Or what is going to happen if, let's say, that Kyle Busch was sitting in the 71 car right now and he's still getting the same results? Like, that's kind of, if the rumors are true of Kyle Busch going to RCR, to Spire, that's kind of the risk reward that they have to play, is what happens if Kyle Busch gets in one of those cars and still is sitting mid 20s in points? How does that look for an organization that's trying to get up to solidly the top 10 in points? Because I honestly think, Kyle Busch, if not the greatest driver in NASCAR history, certainly modern era. But man, he just has not adapted to the next gen cars that well at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we're going to talk more about Kyle Busch because I'm sure this isn't going to end anytime soon.
It's
I'm
going to
sure
be a weekly thing.
I think there's going to be a big meltdown here pretty soon where it blows up and the team. I mean, we might get into the situation where Kyle Busch steps out. We could see something like that happen, but we'll see how that moves along. My disappointment of the week, though, goes to Jonathan Hassler. Not because of his call to take 4 tires, but for what he said about the pit crew of the 12 team. He essentially said in an interview this weekend, I want to keep our guys the same to get them reps to they're kind of green, kind of new, to let them get ready for the chase. Well, there are Penske development teams that are doing better. Like on the 34 team is a Penske development team, and they are doing better than the 12 team right now. So why can't they swap the crews there, keep that same crew together, and let them work together? And then potentially, if they rise, with the 34 car, then send them back to Blaney's way, maybe with 5, 6 races left in the chase. But this is pathetic, Wes. I mean, I sat there on a pit stop and just focused on the 12 team, and without mistakes, they lost 2 spots with the number one pit stall, and they lost 2 spots just by an average pit stop without any slip ups.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the schedule, we're already, let's see, 2, 4, I wanted to make sure 8 weeks in. So we're already, pretty hefty amount into the season. And I feel like there's been plenty of reps. I mean, it's already, let's see, April 14th. I mean, we've had months of preparation and plenty of time to get these reps in. And the mistakes are still just as prominent as they were in Daytona. And it's a shame because Blaney, you take all the mistakes out that they've had in every stage, whenever they've had a caution, come down pit road, put tires on, filled it up with gas. There's a chance he's probably lost out on 30 or 40 points and probably even a couple wins because he's had race winning pace in a lot of these races so far this year. So they're missing out on possibly a number one seed berth because they're not taking the effort into making a pit crew change and they're just sticking with what they think is going to work long term. You have to make it work. I mean, long term could be good in the last 10 races, but the race for the first 26 races, I feel like is more important right now, and they should prioritize that a little bit better.
It is a miracle that Ryan Blaney is, after all of the spots that he's lost on pit road this year, the fact that he's second in points and still closed the gap a little bit on Tyler Reddick is an effing miracle at this point. He would be, dude, he would have multiple wins, so many more, like more points than what he's got now if it was not for that weekly caution at this point. It just seems like every time that Ryan Blaney goes, him, the crew, his fans just hold their breath, go, okay, what's going to happen this time? What's going to make us lose spots this time? And it, granted, yeah, you got to win. You're sitting second in points right now, but damn, when you come to those last 10 races of the year, you cannot be having this stuff happening because that stupid stuff like that is what's going to cost you a championship.
Yeah. So if he loses the championship by 25 points because they don't win the regular season championship, I mean, you got to look at these pit crews, and because one of these times they're going to screw up a pit stop and either the tire's going to fall off on the track and it's going to damage the car. He's going to have to be held for 2 laps, and then you get those crew members suspended a couple weeks, or you're going to lose 10 spots. Then the next restart, you're going to get caught up in a wreck that you would have been ahead of if you would have just had a good pit stop. It's going to happen. Look at Christopher Bell, pit road speeding penalty. Immediately after, hits the wall, breaks a toe link, spins out, ends his day essentially. So the Bubba Wallace at Darlington, bad pit stop. Gets caught up in a wreck right after it. These guys, we had that stretch where Blaney, Hamlin, and Reddick had pit road miscues and went on to win, but that doesn't happen every week. Most of the time, it doesn't happen. Most of the time, you either get stuck back there and you can't pass, or you get stuck back there in the hornet's nest and you get caught up in a wreck. None of your own doing. So it's only a matter of time before it bites the 12 team in the ass, and I just wish they would kind of be more proactive with that and get some guys in there that are experienced and can at least be serviceable to where their best pit stop isn't losing two spots. And so that's the only thing I can think of when it comes to the 12 team. And I mean, that's it. That's all I could say on that. Sam, do we have any dummies this weekend?
I will knock out the dummy real quick for time's sake. My dummy is Christian Eckes. I understand that it wasn't intentional. That's why he's the dummy, because he made a stupid mistake. And I understand he was probably trying to get in line real quick and get behind him so that he could, rough him up a little bit, not necessarily take him out. But the optics were terrible, and he just misjudged and he took him out. So as dummies go, that's kind of what the whole thing's for. If you make a stupid mistake, that's what I'm here to call out. So Christian Eck is taking out Corey Heim on Friday night is my Dooley's dummy of the week.
Yep. So it seems like everyone agreed there. I mean, they both agreed in their post-race interviews that there was no intent, and it doesn't seem like NASCAR's taking any look at that as like an intentional right hook or anything. Just an unfortunate situation, and hopefully the Eckes Heim battle stays, pretty hot because they are two of the best drivers in the Truck Series. Just hopefully without the wrecking like this back and forth. Hopefully moving forward. So we got some questions this week, some ask for and fuel after the race here. So from at Matty NASCAR, he says, they say that the first win is the hardest to get. Now that Ty Gibbs has got his first win, do you think we'll see him be a multiple win a year driver, or do you think it's going to be a few far in between, Wes? I'll let you hit that one first.
Oh, I'm gonna say it's kind of a cheat. I feel like to be determined. I say that because I feel like, we still haven't seen Ty just be able to go up there and dominate a race. I feel like the win is enough for him to keep his ride for sure. And that's in Joe Gibbs' eyes for obvious reasons. But I also think that we still need to see more. I know that he's been consistent in this stretch, but we've seen glimpses of this before just without the win. So will the win, kind of catapult him into being a little bit more competitive for like the lead and top three on a weekly basis? Hopefully so. Just want to see him lead more laps, but we've also seen these moments in his other previous seasons where he's gone on really bad runs. And for him to have that win now and the run that he's on, you would expect that to be gone, but I don't know. We've seen it before, so I wanna I wanna say yes, just because he has been consistent up front. But part of me also says no because we've yet to see him dominate a race, just win it without caution, kind of manipulating the tire strategy or who pits, who doesn't pit, and yeah, just want to see those streaks of bad runs come to an end for him, and hopefully this will be the year.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the floodgates are going to start to open up. We've seen it with a few drivers before. Willie Byron, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, those guys early on in their career went quite a while without winning. And then once they got their first win, it just seemed like that now kind of the monkey's off their back. Now they can start to go out and they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about, as the great Jeff Gluck says, everybody's on the Ty Gibbs hate watch. Now that's over and dead. So I think, yeah, like Wes said, I think, leading laps and really dominating a race isn't really in his repertoire yet. But I would like to see, we know that Ty is good at short tracks. I think it's going to be the bigger tracks, your Poconos, Michigan, Charlotte's, things like that. If he can run top five in those types of races, we know that he's pretty good at road courses too. Um, I I don't I wouldn't be shocked if he goes out and wins at least once more this season, and then it's only going to grow from there.
I'll keep mine short and sweet. I think that the floodgates are going to open. I'm in the same camp as Steve. But I also share a little bit of the skepticism from Wes. Um, just because if I haven't seen it, we talked about this in like all of our preseason team previews. If I haven't seen it yet, or if I have seen it, I don't expect it to change. And if I haven't seen it, then I don't expect it to change. So I understand he's got this good start to the season, but it's a 36 race season. Once I see a sustained 36 race season, I think that he could pick up another win this year. I'm like Steve, like he could pick up another one here, and then he could go on to be a multiple time winner, or he could turn into. I don't want to say it that he's going to turn into the 21 car from last year, but the 21 car came out, got a win, and was actually up front for a few races. There was a few less races than what we've seen, obviously, and JGR is not the Wood Brothers, but kind of in that same vein. Like you get out of the gates hot, but when you get to the dog days of summer, that's when you're really tested. If he's still doing this come August, and he's got a second win, or he's got 10 top fives by that time, like he's still racking them off like he is right now. I'm a believer. I'm on the Ty Gibbs hype train. Like I think he'll be a force to be reckoned with because he's got talent. It's just putting together a full season, and it's a hard thing to do because you're working for so many weeks straight in NASCAR. So it's just I think that this will open the floodgates, but I also share a little bit of skepticism on it.
Yeah, Ty Gibbs will win a couple races this year, and the field should be scared if he runs top 5 all day at Kansas, because then he's really covering his bases on all the types of tracks. Because he's also, remember, like a top 5 driver on road courses in the Cup Series right now, I'd say. So he'd have all the bases covered. Just maybe surviving those super speedways is maybe his weakest point right now as a driver. Which, I mean, what are you going to do about that? I mean, you just got to get through the wrecks and find yourself in a spot towards the end there to really see how good you are there. And we got one more question for the trash man. Are there any story/developments that you think are flying under the radar? Now, one thing I'm hearing is the 71 car is potentially up for grabs, like I mentioned before. And the two names that are being I've heard are Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., with potentially Hayek selling their charter, being one of those teams that could sell their charter to RFK to keep Ryan Preece as the third car there. So I think that's a story there where it's kind of a domino effect where, listen, the 47 might not be out there next year. That could be the 60s charter. And then it's a toss up between Kyle Busch and Stenhouse if Michael McDowell's out at the 71 car.
Interesting. I've not heard the Stenhouse to the 71 rumor yet. Interesting for sure. Um, Listen, I've preached the RFK is underrated story a lot, so I'm gonna refrain from continuing that. I will say that the story that I think is flying under the radar, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, is Daniel Suarez, dude. We I just thought that this was going to be a flop and a one and done type of year for Suarez, but he has solidly impressed a lot of us. I think, collectively, all four of us, the majority of the NASCAR fandom, I think, did not expect this type of performance, especially when we saw that car with Justin Haley or Corey LaJoie in that car. Kind of thought, maybe it's not the best, Suarez coming off of a down couple years at Trackhouse, but man, I gotta say, he is surprisingly surprised me. Now, our buddy Dylan, I still believe that he's not going to get multiple wins this year, but man, to be sitting 8 races in and to be sitting 15th in points and to be running solidly, up inside the top 15 most weeks, I think that's definitely flying under the radar.
Anything from you guys, Sam or Wes?
No, I really just don't. At least this year, haven't kept up with the news during the week, so I don't know of any little secret tidbits that could be flying under the radar. But yeah, still, I guess if you look at storylines, I mean, if I want to come up with something now, I could say that RFK, not one of their drivers have finished worse than 25th, and we're already 8 races in. I feel like that's about as impressive as it gets. I'm not sure if there's ever been a team 3 or 4 car operation where that's happened. So you can fact check me on that, but I just think that's super impressive, the consistency they have, and we talked about it in preseason, just how important that is for the chase coming back. And I think those three, they typically heat it up come playoffs, and we've seen Brad, poured on the second half of the year. We've seen Busher have a really good playoff run, and then Ryan Preece, obviously, he's doing a lot better this year than last. So there's I think a lot to look forward to for the RFK bunch, especially when we hit the second half of the regular season and the chase.
And I came up with one. Don't worry. While Wes was talking, flying under the radar. This was actually mentioned by Denny Hamlin on Extra Detrimental this week. But Parker Retzloff in O'Reilly series has been really good, and he's flown under the radar for years. Really, like he's been out punching his weight for a while in these kind of mid to back tier teams. And he always seems to make those cars go a little bit faster than you think they should. And this year, I feel like it's not talked about quite enough, but he's been up front like a lot. Like maybe not fighting for wins, but in that car, you're not really expecting him to beat Junior Motorsports cars. But he's up there. He'll pick off a Junior Motorsports car. He'll get like a eighth place finish. He'll be up there. You'll see his name pretty high on the pylon. So that's my kind of under the radar guy that I've seen so far this year.
I mean, ninth in points is impressive. He's ahead of William Sawalich, who has a win. He's ahead of Taylor Gray. He's ahead of Rajah Caruth, Sam Mayer, and he's right on the heels of Brandon Jones. So he's right there in the mix in the top 10 almost every week, which is just super impressive. And I hope some team owners notice and he can get a top tier ride, because it'd be really cool to see what
It'd
he
be
could
cool
do
to
with
see
some
him in
top
like
equipment.
a JRM car. Oh,
Mhm.
like I just want to see, like, because he's obviously got talent. You could the hard thing is he looks so goofy, and that's no offense to him. He's just kind of a funny looking dude, and so like I think that plays into him getting overlooked kind of, because there's, other than like Austin Hill, like everyone kind of looks normal, and you got big fat Austin Hill up there. And so like it's like Parker, and I think that kind of plays into it too. Is he's just this goofy guy that races for mid to back tier teams, and you just don't think about it, and then all of a sudden he's in ninth, beating cars that you think that he shouldn't be in front of.
And then just to wrap this thing up here, Connor Zilic gets the win on Saturday, and then you got Christopher Bell winning Friday night. Just some good stories there. Connor probably needed that. He said more confidence wise than anything, because running back in 30th in Cup is not going to help your confidence at all. And Christopher Bell getting that win for Stuart Friesen's team is really cool. After what Stuart had to go through at the end of last year, to get back for this year, to get that organization in the victory lane is really cool. And I'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to Todd Gilliland getting a sixth place finish after starting 35th. I mean, that's impressive. He started a spot behind William Byron. William Byron couldn't pass anybody and went 5 laps down. And Todd Gilliland, they took 2 tires at one point to get the track position. He held his own, was arguably could have been a top 5 car, and just really good for that team, because they had been struggling, really not mentioned at all on broadcast, because they'd be running back half of the 20s, low end 30s. So really cool for that team and that organization to get a sixth place finish, and hopefully get some confidence going into the next couple weeks for Todd Gilliland. Obviously, Talladega coming up in a couple weeks is going to be an opportunity for him to maybe get a win and gain some more points to get him back more into relevant conversation, because it feels like that Front Row Motorsports, it's all Zane Smith we talk about, because Gregson and Todd Gilliland just kind of run towards the back end of the 20s. And then you got Zane, who's consistently running in the top 20 every week. So it's good to see Todd Gilliland flash a little success for that team. Well, Food City 500, that's our recap. Good little 45-ish minute episode. We'll be back later this week to preview Kansas this week. So I didn't forget that one. Kansas. That'll be a good preview episode. And make sure you're staying tuned to that. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, listening on Spotify. Sorry about the no audio last week. I had no good connection in that hotel rooms. They were not very good with the upload speeds there. But Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I mean, Steve's been killing it this past week. I mean, he's always killing it, but even more so when I was out for the week. So make sure you're checking all that out. And so for Wes, Sam, Steve, I'm Dom. We'll talk to you later this week to preview Kansas.